This year on December 19th, it will officially have been a full 9 years since Assetto Corsa came out of early release and became Assetto Corsa 1.0. Even crazier than that, though, is the fact that it became available initially to play as a beta through Steam Early Access on, get this, November 8th, 2013. Yeah, so that means we've been driving Assetto Corsa for over 10 years now, and I don't know about you, but to me that is really hard to believe. To date, I've personally clocked in around 450 hours, and I'm sure that's only pocket change compared to many of the Sims hardcore fans out there. What's really interesting to me, though, is the fact that in these last 10 years, many Sims have come and many Sims have gone, yet Assetto Corsa still remains one of the most popular Sims available and has a fan base today that is probably bigger than it's ever been before. So what exactly is the reason AC has been so successful? Well, that's certainly a topic that's up for debate, and as always, I invite you guys to talk about that in the comments below. But for today, I'm going to give you my thoughts on why I believe Assetto Corsa has been and will continue to be one of the most popular and long-lasting racing sims ever. So to get started, we have to go way back to the game's initial release. Things were just simply different back then for developers. In those days, developers treated games way differently than they do now on release. Today, it's actually pretty typical to pay full price for an unfinished and buggy game. And even more so, people, including myself, are willing to pay more than a game's base price to play that same broken game early. And the most recent example of this is many players, including myself, paid an additional $30 over the base price of Forza Motorsports to play 5 days early. And we all know how that went at this point. But that wasn't the case with Assetto Corsa. Kunos at the time offered the game initially at a discounted price as an early release beta. If I remember correctly, it was about 20% less than the game's full price. So what this did is this gave people a reasonable option to get in early for a discounted price, and at the same time they would be helping Kunos work out any bugs or issues along the way. Kunos actually made it very clear that the game wasn't finished and would have regular updates until the official release, which at that time was to be determined with no set date. Then Kunos, with the help of early access players, spent nearly a full year polishing the sim before they dropped the full release. That's the big difference of how games were released back then and how they're released now. And because of that, outside of a few tire model changes and some new content added here and there, Assetto Corsa 1.0 at its core is still the same game that we're playing today with some minor updates. I sure wish that games were still released like this, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of developers that could certainly take some notes from how Kunos did it with Assetto Corsa originally. It's pretty hard to argue at this point that Assetto Corsa has great physics, but that really shouldn't come to us as a surprise. Kunos was not new to physics when they started developing Assetto Corsa. They actually brought along significant experience that they had gained from developing the games Netcar Pro and Ferrari Virtual Racing Academy. They also had real-world experience developing commercial simulators for actual professional racing teams. So what they were able to do is take all that experience they learned from those projects and then improve on it for Assetto Corsa. The results spoke for themselves then, and they still do now. To this day, I still firmly believe Assetto Corsa has some of the best physics and force feedback that I have ever driven in any sim. One of the best ways a dev can future-proof a sim and make it viable long after they stop supporting it is to make it easily moddable. This is not a choice that all developers make, but there is a long history of this being true well back into the early 2000s and even prior. GTR 1, the original R-Factor, Papyrus's NASCAR 2003, they're just a few of the many examples of this. And this is exactly what Kunos decided to do with Assetto Corsa. From the first day they started development, they made sure it would be extremely simple to create and add mods into the sim. To this day, Assetto Corsa is still one of the easiest games to mod, and because of this, it has stayed relevant while many other sims have not. Base Assetto Corsa is still good, but admittedly the user interface and visuals had become quite dated some years ago. Thankfully though, there is a huge community of players who actively create new content for the sim. This is why the addition and ease of modding was so important. It's allowed the community to take Assetto Corsa to places that the developers probably never imagined it would go. There's absolutely no shortage of user-created cars, tracks, skins, apps, basically anything you can think of. But in my opinion, the main two mods that have kept Assetto Corsa from fading away into the darkness have got to be the Content Manager and the Custom Shaders patch. The Content Manager is simply an upgraded game launcher, but as simple as it might seem, it drastically changes the way you launch into the game. It makes it significantly quicker to launch into either a single player session or an online server. It also very neatly combines all of the game settings into one cohesive place, making it much easier to find the settings you need, make your changes, and then get right to racing. It also manages and handles all of your mods with a simple drag and drop method. It literally could not be any easier to use. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the Custom Shaders patch, while a little trickier to get right, has taken Assetto Corsa to unbelievable heights in the graphics department. Once you've got everything set up correctly, it makes this 10-year-old sim look as good, if not better, than any of the current sims on the market. And on top of that, it's introduced many additional amazing features the sim was certainly missing to keep it current. Things like detailed weather effects and rain, night racing, custom lighting effects for cars and trackside objects, additional physics-based objects in the car models specifically, and a whole bunch more stuff. It is safe to say Assetto Corsa would not be where it is today without the Content Manager and the Custom Shaders patch. Because of the massive amount and variety of mods available on Assetto Corsa at this point, it would be highly unlikely that anyone would have a hard time finding something that piques their interest. No matter what you like to drive or where you want to drive it, it's probably going to be available as a mod. It is basically endless. It doesn't matter if you like open wheel racing, GTs, drifting, hill climbs, highway cruising with traffic and with your friends, and hell, you can even race shopping carts and statues of cats if you want to. There literally is no end to the choices that we have at this point with Assetto Corsa. And the fact that it's so inclusive and has something for everyone is a huge reason why I believe it's still around. Now you guys know how I am, and you know I had to include at least one controversial thing in this video, but hang on before you get upset and start capitalizing explicit words in the comments. I'm well aware that there is a group of very vocal people who believe that ACC is the best thing out there since sliced bread. I myself think it's pretty darn good too, but let's take a step back and be honest here for a moment. It's going to be very hard to convince the majority of sim racers that any sim, ACC or otherwise, that is hyper-focused on one specific type of racing genre is ever going to truly appeal to the masses. History has shown us that never works, and one quick look at the average number of players online in each sim at any given time will confirm that today. Combine that with the fact that it was not designed with modding in mind from the get-go. Who knows what Kunos was thinking about here, but there you have the two main reasons, in my opinion, that ACC will always fall short of its older brother Assetto Corsa. And if the contender doesn't defeat the champ will always stay the champ. It's as simple as that. So there you have it, folks. These are the reasons, in my opinion, that Assetto Corsa will never die. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video.